Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Today is the September 14th meeting of the Town of Scarborough Communications Committee regular meeting. It is 3 o'clock and I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let the record show that in attendance are Councillor McGee, Councillor Katarina, and myself. Item 3 is approval of the minutes from July 13th, 2023, as well as the August minutes from 2023. We didn't vote last time because Jean Marie wasn't here. So if we can just bundle those, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move it.
No, I'll second, even though I wasn't at the second meeting.
That's okay. All those in favor? Great, thank you very much. Item 4 is a discussion and authors and topics for upcoming Counselor Corner articles. We're back on our regular meeting schedule, which is good because that gives us some time before the next article is due. Nick is prepared to do an ordinance update for tomorrow's, which is 9:15 e-newsletter. But looking beyond that, for October 1st and October 15th, does anybody have any burning topics? Jean Marie, do you have anything that you would suggest we write about or that you would like to
Sorry, I
write
got
about?
interrupted by a text from a client.
Oh, no worries. Do you have anything for
For what
Counselor
date?
Corner?
What date's the e-news?
Well, it's for October. We can do, I'd like to get us in line for October 1st and 15th.
Getting out to vote is reminding people to go out and vote, that there are important things on the ballot. Well, the absentees go out.
Are we gonna do a?
Are you gonna do
Yeah.
something? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so that doesn't need to be counselor.
Well, it's still be, well, I can go back and see what we've done.
Staff, I watched the finance committee meeting yesterday. I can't think of anything that necessarily John would have to contribute from finance.
Unless he
We're doing
wanted to do
ordinance for
a
tomorrow.
farewell on Wally at Dodge Play. Wally.
Yeah, you get, wish you can do a farewell one.
Yeah, we've
For
done that
October
before,
15th,
yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure he.
And then how about something saying, please take the survey if it shows up in your inbox?
Oh, yeah, as the communications committee, let's take that off. I'll do the October 1st one and launch the survey, at least the idea of it. Will we have firm dates of when it will be mailed and all that kind of stuff?
After today's meeting, I'll reach out to them
Details.
tomorrow and see if we can get a set of time on it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's fine. So I'll do the 1st and then Jean Marie, no, I'll ask John Clucci to do the 15th. And a topic of his choice, kind of his swan song.
Yeah, I just think it's nice.
Yeah.
For them to be able to do that.
I agree.
It looks like Jean Marie did a elections one, but it was for the November 1st.
Okay,
Oh, okay,
okay.
I
So
mean, I'm
something to
happy,
consider for-
although I'm on the ballot, so it should come from someone other than me.
Okay.
I'm already on deck for tonight.
You're what?
I'm already on deck for tonight.
Not it.
Got it.
Yeah, but there are other
Yes,
counselors,
there
so.
are, there are, and roughly thinking about who has written one and
Right,
when,
right.
Counselor Hamill is definitely in the rotation to be up soon too, so I'm sure.
He's had several recently.
No, he had one in June,
June.
yeah,
Well, that's, I haven't had one, but don't worry about it.
okay, so that's why
I know, but I'm just saying.
Did Karen just do one in August?
Karen
Yeah.
did community center, that may have been the
Oh.
first one in June,
There you go, yeah.
yeah.
Well, if
So
it's not,
Karen's
if
up
it's
too.
not an election, I'll write anything. But it's just, I don't feel like where I'm on the ballot, I should be
Yeah.
writing a counselor corner, sure, to go out and vote.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and John Anderson may want to do one, although he's on the ballot too. We can
Yeah, we'll
think about
figure it out.
November 1st, but as long as we have one for October 1st and October 15th in the queue, then I feel good. Item 5 is community survey review and discussion. My hope for today is that this is our last kind of look at this, weigh in one more time and then be done and have this ready to go out of committee. So I'll hand it over to Liam.
All right. So I believe that we've incorporated all the feedback we have received. That's what is in your packet. The two things that I guess three things, but the two I'll start with is we had some discussion about removing the community services questions based on the fact that we've since our last statistically valid community-wide survey, we've done some statistically valid community services specific surveying.
Yes.
And I guess my fear is that I think we have some really good data from that master plan process. And I'm a little bit concerned at generating any data that might be conflicting with that. Maybe that's an irrational fear, but I kind of feel like so I think that was something that we also discussed removing in the context of creating some space for some other questions, which I don't actually think has really materialized. So anyway, so that was one thought I had. The other one that I thought we had some discussion on was question 13, the trash and recycling one. That's an outsourced service. I guess we just talked about whether we wanted to keep that in there. Again, we don't really need the space, so perhaps we do want to keep it in there. Simply to find out how people feel about that essential service. The question 13A around any additional services, I think that one generally generates handwritten comments to the effect of big
One
ticket
answer,
items
yeah.
or composting perhaps. So maybe just for continuity, we keep that in there. Okay, so the one and just to highlight the other changes from the last survey, we did incorporate the school department's feedback. We also incorporated the library's feedback where they actually look for some additional guidance from the community on the $13 million bond issue that was not approved. So this is their language that they requested, which I think is good feedback. We did offline kick around the idea of trying to incorporate some fiscal policy questions, which I think the general consensus from the council was those were probably too complex to effectively provide the appropriate context for and get relevant feedback from. So I don't think we're going to advance anything in that regard. There's also been discussion around whether to incorporate some feedback on the consolidated school project. Obviously, that's on the ballot in November, and so that's largely going to be what's relevant. And I think in conversations with Tom, others, in the event that referendum isn't successful, I think that they're going to have to do, by they, I mean the school part of the DOE is going to have to do a deeper dive into why it didn't pass. And so I guess I also feel like based on that, trying to get any sort of direction from the community on that big question is probably a fool's errand at this point. The last thing I would say is we've talked about, again, based on the feedback we got in the last survey, the most quoted finding was around the community satisfaction with how the town is managing growth. Allison did the good part of this question, which was the lead-in, and then I've attempted to provide some framework. I do think that we should try to delve into this. I don't think that maybe this is that's up on the board here. I guess I can share it for anyone who might be. So the lead in here is the context is 52% were either dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with how well the town is managing residential growth. The town council will look to address the subsequent issues related to increased population traffic through town. And so this is kind of what we need to maybe have some discussion about today in our time. Please rank the following perceived, and again, I said perceived challenges because maybe they are related to growth, maybe they're not, but perceived challenges many have associated with growth from most concerning to least concerning. And other ways to structure this question, we could say, please pick your top three. We could say rank from 1 to 5, 1 being of no concern, 5 being of great concern. We could rank from the most important to the least important. But these are the things that I think I've heard most consistently. So certainly increase in travel or commute times. Increasing competition for parks, trails, or conservation land access. Yeah, maybe competition's not the operative word there that we should use. Increasing competition to access of municipal beaches and facilities. So that's largely parking, but also could be the demand.
How
for
about
beach
say
houses.
reduced access instead of increasing competition?
Okay, all right, I put that in the
Keep
footnote.
it simple.
Yeah.
I think, so
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just mine.
I think there is part of me that is, increase is not inherently negative. When you reduce, so I think that's something for us to discuss, right? And
Yeah.
again, we're
But
not,
what I hear from people is, I can't get in.
Right.
So.
so.
And Liam's saying
Or-
increasing, the reason you can't get in is because there's an increase in
yeah.
competition,
Right,
which is a more positive mindset, like,
increase in demand,
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm looking at museums.
Mhm. So let's hear,
Anyway.
so I think framing is
Whatever.
important, though, but I think that's where we probably need to have some discussion, but. The other one, increase in demand on emergency services, increase in cost to maintain new public roadways, and again, maybe it's not the cost, increase in enrollment within the school department or increase in municipal budget. Again, I think we know definitively. I think on some of these issues, we have a higher degree of confidence that growth really isn't impacting all of these. Growth.
That's the
approach this
perception.
but it's the perception. So I think my questions for the committee are, does this capture all of the perceptions around growth and the downside? If not, what are those areas we need to incorporate? To Jean Marie's point, how do we want to frame this or construct it? Is it using words like reduced access to beaches? Again, I was trying to follow the same sort of structure
Right,
and
yeah,
cadence, but maybe it's not appropriate and gonna lead to confusion. And then certainly if we can decide on a list and how we want to frame it, so kind of list of subjects and how we want to structure it. How do we want that feedback? Do we want a 1 to 5 scale? Do we want a ranking? Do we want top 3? That's kind of the second. So I think just going back to the survey itself, there are other questions that ask for the very satisfied to very dissatisfied, but then often it will ask for what's the importance of it. So someone may say, I'm very dissatisfied with my access to public parks, but I don't really care. It's not really that important to me. I'm relatively unsatisfied with traffic, but that's really important to me. And so there's probably an ability to do a combination of that. And this is really how I'd see that question being structured as, 1 through whatever for the categories. Why don't you rank it? So maybe that answers the question, rank it very satisfied to very dissatisfied, and then ask for kind of what they, what's the most important thing to them.
This is pretty much the same as the last, I don't remember the last.
Yep, so there's
Because we want to keep it as similar as possible, so we're comparing apples to apples.
very minor tweaks, like in transportation, provided some feedback. I think we incorporated some of that feedback in, I think it's under infrastructure.
For 17A,
Yeah,
can we talk about adding question 7 around town hall hours?
Oh, right.
I think
So-
that's probably the most appropriate place to put that.
I actually, so yes, this is your survey. I was gonna say just overall satisfaction with town hall hours of operation. And I was gonna propose to put that in question 1, but maybe it's better in 17,
Let me look.
which is the overall satisfaction with town services. But maybe you're right. So you're saying 17?
Yeah,
That
just
makes sense.
parse it out in 17, yeah.
Okay, great. We'll do
Have
that.
we heard complaints? I haven't gotten any complaints from people.
No, but I have heard from enough members of council that they would like to have that question asked, that I'm honoring that request from within council.
From one person?
No. I did receive the request from multiple people.
Oh, sure.
Right.
So, so just going back to my first, so why don't we keep the community services questions? Why don't we keep the question on trash and recycling? So we have year over year tracking on that.
Yeah, for the community services, like, just to weigh in, I'm not worried about getting conflicting results. I think we've seen similar results even between what we asked and then when they asked their questions, what they got was also similar. I think that there's definitely some strong trends there. So I'm not worried about getting conflicting information. More just, if we wanted the real estate for other questions, I would have been willing to remove those, but I think it's fine to leave them.
Okay, great.
I have a question about employment status, because if I were answering this, none of them apply to me.
Oh, you're talking about demographics?
Yeah. 34. To me, there should be a self-employed in there, and then separate out a home-based business. Those are two different things.
Work for home versus self-employed. Or what do you-
Oh, that's a good
we
question
trying to track
too.
traffic movement?
Yeah,
This question?
that's a good question. Because a lot of people work from home, but they work for an employer. I'm self-employed, but my business isn't my home, it's North Star Realty,
I guess,
which is,
what are we trying to glean from the answers? to the
Yeah.
question? Are we trying to figure out if people are driving around town or if it's just
right, good question.
kind of background information? Most retired people think X, Y, and Z. Students think X, Y, and Z. What's the purpose of it?
I mean,
That would have been my thought, Nick, would have been like, okay, well, the majority of people who identify as students
Mhm.
are most concerned about access to beaches, or,
Right, maybe
like
that-
make
maybe
a
that's-
link between those two, but aside from,
Oh, yeah, for.
but I wasn't
cross-sectioning,
thinking like,
yeah.
oh, that this means they probably are adding cars to the road.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I didn't know if that's
Cross-section.
what was being used for.
So Jean Marie, which of the following best describes your current, would you say that you're?
Self-employed.
Employed in the home. or
But
office business.
Do you have an actual office space?
She
or do you
think
work
work-
I
from-
have 5 businesses at my house,
So should we have a 6?
but one of them is
Jean Marie?
based out of South Florida, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Technically, she's not currently employed outside of the home. She's employed on the inside of the home.
Well,
But
no,
it's
I'm running
not-
around all the time.
Home-based business. Yeah, Jean Marie, I don't know, I think.
But I'm just saying, I read that and went, oh my God, what would I, anyway, don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal. It's just, does it make a difference or not?
Okay.
Can I have you go back to the
Yeah.
page you had shown earlier with the growth language?
Oh, yeah,
So up at the top, it says 52% are either dissatisfied or very dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Where did you get that number?
that's from the last survey. So the 2021 survey, that was in your set.
Residents perception and transparent pace of growth.
Yeah.
So the red is too much or too fast, right? So it depends whether we're talking about single.
I think there was
family.
another question. I think there was another question apart from that one.
Well, I didn't know if you rolled all that up, and combined them and then did an average.
I don't think so.
I
Allison,
think
do
I
you
just
recall?
got it from the findings report, but I can look while we're talking.
If you scroll up, Nick, is there another section that just, because this was a question about managing growth. It wasn't the aspects of growth.
How well the town is managing it.
Oh, made perceptions, you scroll down. Right there,
Okay, so you use this one.
yes, yep. How well the town is managing residential growth.
Right here, so that's where you get the 52. Yeah, it just says, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha, all right. That's interesting.
And then those results there are what their
Pace
perception,
of growth.
yeah.
I see.
So this
Two
is,
different questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, and I like the wording consistency too, because anybody who's taking the survey is gonna see that managing residential growth language elsewhere in the survey too.
I mean, we could,
I mean, they're two different questions, right? Because whether or not the pace of growth is too fast versus managing growth. We can be doing an okay job managing it, but people could still feel that it's growing too fast. Right?
Yeah,
They're two separate, which is what I think we.
But I think, but I do interpret the concept of managing growth as, you know, irrespective of the pace,
Mhm.
it's having an impact on me. And
right,
that's why I'm unhappy with how we manage whether it's slow or fast growth.
Mhm.
The impact to me has been negative. And so therefore I'm unhappy with how it's been managed. That's how I,
Maybe
That's
that's
what I'm
the better
referring-
question to ask you. Well, do you feel the pace of growth is too fast or too slow, and do you feel that the pace of growth negatively or positively impacts you? Just personally, I mean,
up or down.
because I just see like, somebody can answer like, they don't think there's enough housing going up in Scarborough,
right,
Which question?
right? And so they would be not satisfied.
Mhm.
right,
And, but they might think that we're managing it well, or maybe they don't think we're managing it well because they're not going up fast enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
there are two really like you can get insight from two different things. How we're managing it, like how we're dealing with growth is different than how you feel about the pace of growth or how it impacts you.
So we are gonna ask that same question again, that information generated, so that's untouched. So we're gonna get updated information on whether people,
So we will have the pace.
we
Pace
will have
comes out
that
of
pace.
question
Yep,
10.
yep.
Okay.
And then I think we still have
So-
the same question around,
Well, and then your question less focuses like, how do we feel it impacts you, right? How do you feel growth impacts you?
I think that's what, I think we're trying to understand what the actual concerns of the community are related to growth.
Gotcha.
it's called change. People are resistant.
I have a hard time with change.
Well, people, it's natural.
Yeah.
It's a natural. reaction.
Well, so that's one that we haven't I mean, so are we trying to drill down on the change or the impact?
Right. Of course, we don't want to overthink this either.
It's true.
I mean, we're not gonna solve the world's problems
Is
with
there-
this, we're just trying to get a.
And then the only other comment I would have on it is the, says rank them. Like, are you gonna tell them how to, like, one is being,
So I think that as I see the rest of the survey, I think my preference would be that it follows this sort of format.
okay, so
that
you put it
they're,
into a block.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Very satisfied to very dissatisfied or agree versus disagree. Well, and then down below, we can have them rank,
Oh, yeah.
either rank,
Take your top three.
To tell us the top
questions,
three.
Right,
Yeah,
But I
that's
think you
what,
had the question framed as like, what is most concerning to you or something?
yeah, like right below that, and then number two, you said, what do you think the township vote is supposed to be?
yeah,
And
we
then
could
one,
say,
two,
we could say
three.
most concerning, least concern, yeah,
And
I
then
guess,
which one's the most?
and then the top three.
should we have one? I'm trying to think whether, I think this is already incorporated, but should we have something about
We're gonna do taxes. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
competition? I'm trying to think of other public places people go.
Mhm.
So not just parks. So we have parks, beaches, but the other big thing we hear is that there's too much
Hannaford's.
congestion at Hannaford. Right,
Okay.
right. And so is there a way to, have another bulleted question?
We have enough grocery
About-
stores in town.
But see, and I don't want, so what are we trying to figure out? Like, is it just Hannaford that people, like, is it restaurants? Is it recreation? Like, how do we categorize the establishments for ease of wording it?
It's almost like, I think we should have a separate question that says, I find it easy to park my vehicle at the beach, 1 through 5, the grocery market.
There
1
you
through
go.
5. Yeah, like, you know what I mean, like, right,
And then like the other thing is like, what we don't need to be trying to suss out as town employees is whether or not Hannaford is understaffed. I mean, are
Right.
people
That's got
cranky
nothing
at
to do with
Hannaford
it.
because there's only 2 registers open? Cause
Right?
I can't do anything for you about your perception of growth if Hannaford is understaffed. Like, that's the challenge with asking.
Also, there's a
public
new one
places,
opening.
Mhm.
Right? O'Reilly's is hard to get a table when it's beautiful and sunny outside and they want to sit outside. Well, that's, I don't know if we can blame growth on that.
Mhm. Right. And also, yeah, and it's also hard to take issue with if private establishments are so busy.
Right.
Well, right.
You know.
Right.
That's a good thing.
But yeah, we're dealing with perceptions in a lot of these things, right?
Right.
So I guess we are attempting to approach the question with. Again, the perceived challenges that come with growth, what is their? Yeah, what is the perception of these, so we can try to incorporate some of that stuff.
Just, yeah, I mean, and maybe not, and
Yeah.
this is kind of one of those things where. I'm trying to figure out whether there is a way to incorporate some of the feedback we get and whether that's really our place to try and decide whether or not. People are
Mhm.
correctly perceiving something as growth when really it may just be.
Right.
People would like something other to eat.
And some of these things too, I mean, if you have a really popular restaurant.
Well, right.
Or again, not everyone has that beach, so growth in other areas still generate increased volume of traffic and attendance at our beaches because.
But if you notice a difference,
Mhm,
that's something else.
right,
I'm wondering if there should just be something in there, just like, there's just too many people. Because a lot of people would just be like, yeah, there's.
Yeah, there's sort of people everywhere I go, it's two people here.
I would be curious to check that box, just like, yeah.
I mean, we could also, we could do kind of a perception question, because I think that is important, I think that's something we could really talk a lot about, like what people really don't like about growth, that underlying question. We could also have a secondary question around, that's more solutions based, do you want the town to expand parking at public beaches?
Well, I
Do
think
you
that's
want
what
the-
you would try to glean from this
Right.
question. I
Right.
think you're asking the same question in two different ways.
You sound like you've got topics that are more for focus groups.
Well, I think going back to one of our initial conversations on this community survey, I think that there's certainly value to tracking
Right.
2 years or trends, but I think to the degree we can have. Again, the opportunity here is we have a statistically valid survey,
Right,
which we should say is not just a
right,
specific interest group answering our voluntary survey. So to the degree we can incorporate questions that give us solutions, or
Yeah.
at least a path towards a
Yeah.
solution. And so I think asking a question around the perceptions of the challenges with growth is important, but if we can, and maybe there will be some overlap, but to the degree we can put in, what are your preferences for some solutions to this? Maybe that's another way of asking, or getting at this issue that will help guide the council's goal setting process, right? Because that's the.
yeah,
Not just identifying problems, but
Right.
also what are some of the solutions,
Right.
and maybe there will be a correlation between those things, and maybe there won't be, but. Again, I'd love to have a document at the end of December for the council to consider that says. The community has identified, here's their issue with growth, and here's what they'd like to see us devote some time and energy to. And maybe it's expanding access to these resources, maybe it's adding additional funding to emergency services, maybe it's, I don't know.
Right.
Well, maybe that's the way you ask the question then, because the answers to this question is kind of more tied to like the pace of growth satisfaction from last time. Whereas this is starting with like how well the town is managing growth.
Mhm.
So then the answer should be more about like, what do you want us to do to manage it better?
Yeah,
But if you want to keep asking these questions, then the preface should be. For X percentage was like. This dissatisfied with the pace of growth,
mhm,
two different.
yeah,
Like, do we want to find out more about the satisfaction with the pace of growth, dissatisfaction, or do we want to find out more about? What the town can do to manage it better?
I want to find out what people don't like about growth and then what they want us to do about it. And I think that there probably are two different, and I expect that there will be some relationship between those two
Yeah.
things, but there may not be.
Yeah.
And either way, I want the community to tell us what that is.
Yeah. So it's almost like. This first question should be about, I could find the percentage of, or whatever you just said about the dissatisfaction with pace of growth. What was that? Do you know?
The overall percentage,
From the last survey,
it was, Residents' perception for the town's current pace of growth and development in various areas. It was all broken down to single family, multifamily.
Oh, yeah.
So single
it's
family and
about-
multifamily scored about the same, 66%, 67%. And the people saying it's
So that
too
was
fast,
sorted out, like,
was
okay.
much too fast or too fast.
Yeah.
Was 2/3 of people. So retail and business was 24% of people thought it was too fast.
mm,
Income restricted affordable housing, 24% thought it was too fast. Workforce was 22% thought it was too fast. And redevelopment of abandoned properties, 7% said too fast.
I mean, yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to some of that.
There are some properties that,
So they, the way it was done in the last survey, it's clearly broken into what type of development did you think was moving too fast? And clearly, the bigger concerns would be single family.
so that's interesting, that was more about like a development question and not as much about like other resources. The
Just a
stuff,
perception
yeah.
of the current pace of growth for the town. So that's people's perception. We get specific, like we just passed the new GMO. Which limits,
But you don't wanna make this too long
I
either,
know.
because people won't fill it out.
We removed, I think we removed quite a lot. I don't think there's, even if we
Yeah,
did
because
two
there's-
questions on this growth.
Do they do follow-up phone calls? Or is it
To-
just mailed out?
It's mailed out, and there was also
Survey.
links to online.
But there's no person that calls up and says, hi.
No.
Liam, did you do
No.
your survey? Did you
It's
turn it
a-
in? Blah,
it's
blah,
a
blah.
postcard.
So I guess my question for the committee is, and I really would like to turn around something in the next day.
Yeah.
For the entire council to chew on. Are there any other perceptions? Are there any other issues that people convey to you that they attribute to growth that's not on this list?
Taxes.
Traffic, well, municipal budget increasing.
I know,
Should I
yeah,
say municipal budget or taxes?
yeah, because they are under the perception that with growth, their taxes are going up and they don't get the stabilizing effect of the diversified tax base.
I mean, we could simply say, please rank the following perceived challenges or perceived increase in demand for the following
Yeah,
experiences, and then we can just say,
I like that better.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then we could have a one to
Travel.
five,
You don't have to say increase in, you could
right?
travel at the new times.
This still requires some, like, this is kind of.
and then competition for could be changed to access to,
Yeah,
access to parks. trails.
there you go.
yeah,
Say public infrastructure.
When do you use EG versus IE?
IE is in other words, EG is kind of.
Example, EG's example.
That's
Liam also
I
did
just learned
EG and EX. He's got two.
Oh,
I'll fix that.
I say use all three of them in there somewhere.
I just teasing you. Isn't it fun to wordsmith something with all of us just sitting there watching?
no pressure.
essential retail locations. That's my
Yeah.
attempt at
Yeah.
grocery
Mhm.
stores.
Yeah.
I'm not sure restaurants are essential, but.
I mean, gas stations, banks, like,
Oh, right,
Oh,
sure,
okay.
right, okay.
The Dairy Corner.
I mean, that's our number
I
one.
know that place is popping.
Yeah.
I haven't been there once this year.
The lines are daunting. sometimes.
So then we can do, so this will be some sort of scale, either least important, most important, most concerning, least concerning, whatever that is. So it'll be a scale of 1 to 5. And then we want them to, please pick top 3. Again, I know there's a, I don't know what it is, what I'm looking at, but there's some sort of format for them. Based on the questions. You know, which 3 of the items listed in question 1 do you think
Yeah.
there's the most emphasis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's precedent language.
So do we want to also try to look for some direction on, you know, with the question, with that question as kind of a framework, do you want us to try to, you know, so it'd be commit additional resources to efficient traffic flow, more efficient traffic flow, increase access to public parks, I mean, I'd be kind of parking, improve beach facilities to address additional capacity. Invest in additional public safety staffing, or
You're gonna get.
What I said.
From the public.
you don't think they will?
Yeah,
I think they're better off getting the answers and then having the council know how to fix it.
Okay.
I mean,
I agree.
I don't know how we get more beaches.
I just had this
More
vision,
parking.
More
beaches,
parking.
More, yeah.
yeah, I just had this vision in my head of someone filling this out. Getting to a certain point and going, just stop spending money.
Right. There's that.
Well, I think that you're gonna, I think that there are people who are, well, I think have said over the last few years, stop allowing for more housing and growth, right? Just stop it.
Don't change. Put up the gates.
And the reality is we just
What's
can't do that.
US, right?
So,
US is pretty developed considering the land.
I think it blows my mind though, every time like something big happens, they close that bridge down, they're like.
any other thoughts, changes?
Excellent work.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we need to, we'll get it out and see where.
Head to the council. We don't make the decision.
Okay.
Council does.
Okay, hey. Turn it back to you.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, great. So just in terms of timing, Liam, this will come before council.
I don't think leadership has any desire to actually see the final draft in
Okay.
a formal meeting.
Meeting. Okay.
So I think, I'll finish this by tomorrow. I'll get it out to council for any comments about incorporating this question. I'll copy Jason on it so he can start working something, at least a place for it in. And then I think we send out a final version of the council and say, unless you have any objection, this is what's going out.
Perfect. I've lost my agenda.
Next is public comment.
Finance agenda open. That's not helpful.
Comment and future.
Okay, so public comments. Do we have anybody online? We do not have anybody in the room today, so I will go ahead and close public comment. Future agenda items. I don't know which of the counselors has been on kind of this ongoing email thread, but we have a resident who, this is actually the second time I've been looped back in on this thread about kind of council protocols for responding to emails. And how we don't really have set protocols, I came from the BOE world where it's literally listed on our website that only the chair will respond to email inquiries. And that's part of being chair of the school board, but we don't have that same expectation. And so I don't know whether this is something that we want to talk about at our goal setting for 2024, or if it's something that we want to try and address in terms of getting some kind of messaging out. I know we had talked about as a committee last year, I think, just kind of putting like a 2-question survey embedded in the e-news about how people expect to interact with council or something like that. And just trying to figure out, like, are we meeting people's expectations? Should we have a formal conversation as a full body about what the expectations are for responding to people's emails? I have said publicly many times, I am maybe the worst. Like, if John or someone else sends a great response and answers somebody's questions, I consider that closed, and I don't also add in my own voice. And so I think the perception is you email 7 people and sometimes you expect to get some responses back. And so I just want to kind of have that conversation
To
about,
me, that's under goals. I know we've talked about it in the past.
Yeah.
And it's been very mixed. This is with past councils about, if I'm gonna reply, I'll reply. We absolutely do not want to do what the Board of Education does. Or we never did. And I was just looking under policies and ordinances. At one point, I thought we had a policy that when you replied to someone, you CC'd everyone so everyone could see what the answers were, but I think it's good to talk about that in our goals.
yeah. So I'm happy to loop back to this resident and just say, this is something that shifts as the council shifts, and it's probably a conversation worth having, at our goal meeting, just to at least be able to arrive at a statement that I can then pass on to people. If nothing else, then I could respond when we get an inquiry like that and say, as a council, we have decided.
This person, were they disturbed because they didn't hear back from each person, or?
Yeah, I think they had sent the council a pretty lengthy email multiple times. And, then in this most recent reply had kind of said 3 out of 7 got back to me, and that's a pretty bad batting average, and I can share it with you.
Yeah, I mean, that should be shared. It's public.
Sure.
It's public info.
Like I said,
My concern
the
is,
email chain goes like this, and at some point I'm dropped off from it, and then
Well,
3 or 4 other
that's-
emails are exchanged, and then I come back because.
this person could always pick up the phone or
Sure.
email the ones who haven't
Sure,
commented and say, hey, Jean Marie, I emailed, what do you think? But so it goes both ways. That's my opinion. I'm happy
Can I
with-
chime in?
yes,
I think it would be a good idea to set up an automatic reply to the town council at Scarborough, Maine. That sets some expectations.
Yeah.
Something for I think it would be helpful to say, when they get it, so that way they get a confirmation that their email is received, right? And perhaps set those expectations that are not difficult to meet, that essentially says, thank you for your email to the Scarborough Town Council. Please know it has been received. Every one of our 7 town councilors has the ability to view your email, in addition to, and staff, we have a number of staff that are included as well. And maybe carves out, counselors may or may not respond at their discretion.
Right.
And you could, I might even go as far, just thinking about how to improve the process. You could also do some level of education where you talk about the, in the event your issue or concern is related to a subcommittee, you could either have individual counselors and emails and committee assignments. You could use it as a mechanism to, build some education with them, but at least that way they know the email was received, they know that the council has access to it, and they also know that they may or may not get a response. And You know, so I think that that would go some way, because I think anytime someone sends an email and just nothing.
Yeah, that's-
That's, I think getting reassurance that it has been received and everyone on the town council has access to it. Ultimately, it's up to you whether you want to respond or not.
Yeah,
I mean,
I suspect the sentiment of the council would be everyone wants the option to
Right.
chime in,
Right.
but not ever be required.
And there are times where I've seen, Chairman Anderson respond, like you said,
Right.
and it's been completely adequate, like, okay, like,
Yep.
Yeah,
you got it. I
Yeah.
mean. it's
But
not-
in the event you receive a response and there's general agreement, you may not receive another response from council, but I think to your point, April, preserving a counselor's ability to respond or not, there aren't
Yeah, I
stringent
think that's
rules.
probably important.
I think, and I might suggest that that's something for maybe rules and policies and concert with communications to take up.
Well, I would rather, again, discuss it when the new council comes in to see what they want for a policy on that.
Yeah, so this may come back to communications just to get an idea of what that auto reply looks like.
Mhm.
Right, and so. and
I do
think
an auto
that's-
reply like when I'm away on vacation. Now, I don't know does it go out if it's coming to town council general?
I think it does go
It
up.
does.
It does
because
go
we
out,
all
it
get a
should.
reply from you, from.
Oh, okay, then I'm away on blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. So people, I always do that. I'm
Um,
not reading stuff.
Would it be helpful just to continue the conversation? I mean, I don't know, Allison, what your interest is in this, but based on that, maybe draft something for the council to consider as an auto reply.
Yeah.
And see what your thought is.
reference as
Yeah.
you're talking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your communication to the Scarborough Town Council.
Message
Please
has
be
been
ad-
received.
Please be advised, blah, blah, blah.
Probably should put something in there. This is Maine, not England.
I,
Not
Oh my gosh, that's actually.
It was all the time.
So many.
They obviously posted our email address on some.
By mistake,
Municipal
something got
website, the
mistake.
equivalent of their municipal website, and yeah.
Yeah, we're getting all, and I'm reading them and I'm laughing, I'm
Bombarded.
thinking, I thought we had problems.
Well, I was gonna say, I said he literally was struggling right now.
Scarborough, England.
And then anyone have any other future topics for communication stuff? We're coming up on election, and so I would like to see more participation.
Yeah, we gotta get people out to vote, they need to
For-
realize
Yeah,
their responsibility. But.
well, I'd like to see more council participation too for election day, so that's something that I think we
What do we need to do there?
just sit at the
Sit at
table.
the table.
Yeah,
It's fun to do that,
I'll sit at the table.
I know you will.
I'll be out front.
That's fine.
Yeah, you can't even be in the.
Yeah.
office.
Maybe a couple more videos before the end of the year too.
Yes,
That would
yeah,
bring
those are good.
voices. Yeah.
Sorry, I can't. do it.
I know. you did so
Another-
well last year.
Another topic that people have started emailing us about, and I've started seeing on social media, is the upcoming assessor, the reval.
Yeah.
So Nick is presenting to the council at our upcoming meeting,
Mhm.
and then will you have something in the newsletter? Like-
Yep, it's in the leader this week. I
perfect.
actually just saw it today.
Oh,
And,
great.
um,
I was gonna say, I just read something.
Yeah, and it'll be in the newsletter tomorrow, and he actually did a quick video with me.
Oh,
talking
good.
The workshop next week, so I'm
Cool.
gonna post that. this week.
I also think the letter that would, I got a letter.
Yep, and it was in the.
I thought it was
text.
really well done.
Yeah,
very
they did a
clear,
great job.
Yeah.
The
We
info.
do more than 99.9% of the municipalities in Maine for communicating, to be honest.
I
with you.
told you, the people at the GP cog thing.
Right, they're blown
like,
away
they-
by what we
They
do.
thought we were just fantastic. They couldn't believe all of
Yeah,
it.
we do a lot of that.
Right.
Scarborough, England. On the other.
All right, guys, with that, I will go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Great, thanks.